Well, I guess that zero drop running shoes are like London buses. So you wait for ages for one to come around and then two come along at once. So my last first impressions video featured the Torrent 8 road running shoe from zero drop brand Outsole, and today I'm going to be telling you all about INOV8's latest offering to their trail running lineup, the Trailfly Zero. So this has been a really anticipated trail shoe after the success of their Trailfly G 270, which was also a zero drop trail shoe. So let's give you a few facts and figures. I'm going to also break down this new construction in a bit more detail, and then we're going to be lacing up the Trailfly Zero and taking them out for their first run. Hope everybody's weekend has gone well. Thanks for tuning in again. Or if you're new to the channel, then thanks for joining us. It's great to have you along. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. So training has gone well this week on the recovery path, and I've actually managed to run just shy of 40 miles and the left hamstring is feeling really good. So super positive. But if you're not aware, I would say just over a month ago, I had a nasty fall out on a wet, slippery, muddy coast path and I damaged the top of my left hamstring, and I think I tweaked a few nerves along the way. But you know, I've been building back gradually over the weeks and doing all the recovery stuff, exercises, strength and conditioning, foam rolling, massage, all the good stuff, and I really feel like I'm getting somewhere now. It's always tricky when you're coming back from injury as a runner, and you really do have to believe in that process and, you know, take your time and make sure you don't rush it. And eventually everything comes back together and you get back in the flow of things. And, you know, I'm going to give it probably another week and then I'm going to start upping the mileage on those longer runs to try and get some good fitness back in my legs, because we've got some exciting races rapidly approaching and I'm definitely going to need my fitness back for those. But anyway, that's enough of me waffling on, because I know you've all come to hear about INOV8's latest zero drop Trailfly. So this is actually the third version of the Trailfly to be launched. We had the standard version, believe it or not, about a year ago now when it launched, and I can't believe how quickly that time has gone by. And then a lot more recently we had the deeply cushioned version, the Trailfly Max, which I recently tested out on the channel, and in fact I've tested both of those shoes out on the channel and I really enjoy running in them. So I think the new Trailfly Zero will feel and perform very similar to those two previous models. So first up, they retail on the INOV8 website for £140 here in the UK. They're currently available in two colourways. So we've got this navy, light blue, orange one that I've got here, which I'm a big fan of. They also come in a white and black colourway, which I've got to be honest, I'm not really a fan of. You know, I like a bright running shoe, so these are perfect for me. Weight wise, my pair in a UK 10 tips the scales at 304 grams. And funnily enough, we've got a midsole stack height of 12mm at the heel and 12mm under the forefoot, because obviously it is a zero drop shoe. There's also two fit options available. So I've actually got the standard fit here, and you can see with INOV8's new anatomical foot shape design, even in the standard shoe, you get a pretty roomy toe box. But you know, if you did feel you had quite a wide foot shape, or you just like lots of wiggle room up front, then there is a wider fit available also. As far as the upper construction goes, starting at the top, as you can imagine, it's not a million miles away when it comes down to the upper design compared to the other two versions. So we've got this nice lightweight, soft, breathable, engineered mesh upper, and INOV8 have worked in their Met cradle protection, so that actually locks the heel and the midfoot in to give you that nice secure foothold. I'd say we've got a sort of average level of padding around the ankle collar and in the heel, but one of the biggest changes comes down to tongue design. So really happy to say it's still gusseted inside the upper, but it is a lot thinner in design. So INOV8 have actually worked in this small area of zonal padding down the center, but like I say, it's a lot thinner, and it was actually the thin tongue design in the Trailfly G 270 that caused me a few sort of discomfort issues on longer runs. So hopefully we don't have the same issue with these today. And then finishing off, when it comes to the upper, we got a pretty standard looking lace system there. We got some nice overlays wrapping around that toe box for a bit of extra durability, a handy pull tab on the heel just to make it a bit easier to get in and out of the shoes, and we've got a good level of upfront protection from a substantial toe bumper. Moving down to the midsole, and we've got the same Fly Speed Pro foam that you get in the Trailfly Max, but obviously just a lot less of it, and that's been paired up with a pair of INOV8's legendary boomerang footbeds. Now, if you haven't tried out a pair of these insoles, I would definitely recommend them because they really do add a level of plushness and bounce underfoot. Also, worked into that midsole, INOV8 have put in their Metaplate rock plate. So that's going to offer you a little bit of extra underfoot protection for when you're running in more sort of rocky technical areas. And then on the bottom of the shoe, we've got a full graphene grip rubber outsole with a 4mm multi-directional lug pattern. So this rubber has actually been infused with graphene, which just so happens to be one of the toughest materials in the world. So it really does make these rubber outsoles extremely durable, and they do hold up to the miles well. INOV8 also claim that they've improved the blend of rubber to make it a lot more grippier when you're running in wet conditions, and I can definitely vouch for that. Performance has been good with these new outsoles in the wet, especially when you compare it to some of those rubber outsoles on the older models that could be sketchy at times when you ran on certain types of rock in the wet. So there you have it, the latest model in INOV8's Trailfly Trilogy. God, try saying that quickly 3 times. But I think it's time to now put the shoes to the test, and I thought I'd take you somewhere different today. So we're going to head to the Penrose Estate in Helston, another awesome training ground we have here in Cornwall, but it is a few miles away. So I'm off to get changed, I'm going to jump in the adventure bus, and we'll see you guys out on the trails. We're just coming up to 3.5 miles. The run is going good, and you might have noticed on some of my recent runs, very dry out on the trails. Well, the good old UK weather put an end to that, because I would say the other day it rained continuously for about 36 hours. So the trails are a lot wetter, and I'm so glad I came to Penrose today because it is perfect testing conditions, way muddier than I thought. So it's going to give the outsole a really thorough test on the Trailfly Zero. And that outsole is performing well so far. So we had a bit of hard standing to begin with, then we went across some wet grass. Like I say, we've had lots of boggy, muddy sections, also some wet tree roots, wet rock, and some stony trails. So I really have had a big mix of terrain, and the outsoles perform well. I haven't had any loss of traction, feels super grippy on all the wet rocks and the tree roots, and even for a 4mm lug shoe, it's performed pretty good in the heavy mud as well. And this is what I was saying when I ran in that ASICS Trabuco Max. That's a 4mm lug, and the traction was terrible, you know, in the mud. Really slippy. This is a 4mm lug, and it's performing way better. So I was going to aim for around 7-8 miles today, but the legs are feeling good, the lungs are feeling healthy, and the shoes are performing well. So we might get a few more miles in. We'll see how it goes, but let's crack on. Here comes the soft sand of Lou Bar. It's only a short section on the run, but it is tough. Really hard work in this soft stuff. It really doesn't matter how many times you run across there. It's always tough. But we are heading back to the adventure bus. Okay, so the watch has just ticked past 8 miles. Run is still going well. Good to be back on the hard stuff off of that soft sand. That made the old quads burn, that's for sure. But let's talk about sizing. So I went up half a size in the Zero, and I've actually gone up half a size in all of the Trailflies, and I would say these are fitting identical in length. So if you are thinking about getting one of the Trailflies, I would definitely go up at least half a size. I've got a really secure lockdown around my midfoot and a good hold in the heel. But most importantly, that thinner tongue design is super comfy, so no issues there. That little sort of zonal padding they've worked in down the centre of the tongue is working really well. So the upper is fitting well and feeling super comfy, but let's get this last sort of mile and a half done. Then we'll jump in the adventure bus, get back to the studio, and we'll wrap this video up with a quick conclusion. Well, that was a much more thorough testing for the Trailfly Zero today than I thought we were going to get, and I had no idea it was going to be that wet and that muddy in the Penrose estate, but I'm actually really happy it was, because I think it was perfect testing conditions for a shoe like this. And you can see they're still pretty muddy. I gave them the quick brush off, but I'll give them a proper clean later, and I actually managed to clock up 9.67 miles in the Trailfly Zeros on a big mix of different terrains. So we had some tarmac paths, we had some muddy, slippery, sort of rooted trails, we had some stony trails, lots of soft sand, and I even had a bit of wet, slippery grass to run on, and the shoes handled it all well. When it comes down to the overall fit, feel and performance of this engineered mesh upper, actually ticks all the boxes for me. So felt a nice secure sort of lockdown midfoot and good hold in the heel. I had no sort of foot movement or slippage, so I felt nicely connected to the shoe. Just the right amount of padding around the ankle collar and in the heel for me, so it felt comfortable on the run, but it wasn't over padded. And I am very happy to say that this thin tongue design didn't cause me any issues, and it actually felt very comfortable across the top of my foot. And when I initially saw that INOV8 had gone for this tongue design in the Zero version, it did kind of set alarm bells ringing for me because of all those sort of bad previous experiences I'd had. But I shouldn't have worried, because it felt comfortable, and that zonal padding that INOV8 have worked down the centre of the tongue did a good job. Obviously, with this being the zero drop option within the Trailfly trilogy, it does feel a little bit more minimal compared to the other two. However, this FlySpeed Pro foam in the midsole felt nice and comfortable underfoot on the run on all the different types of terrain. And I even had to run a pretty long section of tarmac to get back to the car park, and there was no comfort issues at all. But I do think a lot of the cushioning you actually feel comes from the very plush and bouncy boomerang footbeds inside the shoe, and you know, they really do make a difference to the comfort of the ride. And I actually think without them inside, it'd be a very different feeling shoe. Just like the standard Trailfly, midsole flexibility is really good. So lots of flex at the midfoot, and because INOV8 have worked in these flex grooves across the forefoot, there's also a lot of flex there. And one thing I did notice on the run was it felt like I was getting a little bit more underfoot protection when I picked up any sort of rocky sections of trail in the Trailfly Zeros compared to the standard version. And not that underfoot protection was bad in those, but just felt like I was getting a little bit more on today's run. Also, nearly forgot to mention the laces worked really well. Now, I know it's just a pair of shoelaces, and how can one pair of laces outperform another? But that really can be the case sometimes. So I find that some running shoelaces are a little bit too stretchy, so it makes it really hard to get that sort of midfoot lockdown. And what you tend to find is those types of laces also work loose while you're running, whereas the laces in these worked really well and made it very easy to get that midfoot lockdown at the start of the run, but more importantly, they stayed locked down throughout it. So something as simple as just getting the right laces in the shoe really can make a difference when it comes to running shoe performance. So rounding up, and the Trailfly Zero performed well today on the run around the Penrose estate. And personally for me, I actually think this is a much better trail shoe when I compare it to the Trailfly G270. And I just think this new upper design works a lot better for my foot shape. So I didn't have any issues with the ankle collar digging into my foot, and I couldn't feel those laces pulling through the thin tongue. And then we got the added bonus of having a bit more wiggle room up front from this new anatomical foot shape design that INOV8 are using, and I just like the feel of having that wider toe box. So I would say if you enjoyed the Trailfly G270, then you're probably going to enjoy running in these as well. And on that note, it brings today's first impressions video to an end. Really hope you enjoyed seeing a new route, another beautiful route that we get to run on here in Cornwall around the Penrose estate. And I think it's really important in our training that we switch it up now and again. You know, the worst thing you can do is just run the same training loop every time, because at the end of the day, running is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And I think by doing that, you can get bored pretty quickly and you can sort of start to lose your running mojo. So I definitely recommend variation in your training routes. I think it's really important. Also, I've got to say a big thanks to Lee from INOV8 for sending out a pair of the new Trailfly Zeros for us to test here at the channel. Really is appreciated. It's a big help. But if you have enjoyed the video, guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, I've left a link in the description below for the INOV8 website if you want to check out the shoe in a bit more detail. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great start to your week. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. Moving down to Midsole, and we've got the same Fly Speed Pro foam that you get in the Trailfly Max, just a lot less of it. And height, stack height. So there you have it, the latest model in INOV8's Trailfly Trilogy. Trailfly Trilogy.